Greetings, YouTube family. This is Apostolic Audio Ministries. My name is Chris Lips. Because of the current COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic, all gathering places such as churches are now limited with how many people they allow. So they're having to do live streams and such. So this YouTube channel is dedicated to protect and provide the audio ministry of the church with a lot of the preaching messages and testimonies, but it's also a way for us to still provide encouragement and inspiration to those who like to just listen to preaching and listen to sermons on YouTube. This is a very good source, a very good way to be inspired by others. So before we get started, I just want to do some self-promotion real quick because this pertains to today's message. I have written 2 books. The first book is called In a Baby's Eye. It is a book dedicated to my testimony of being a victim of child abuse and a disabled person because of the abuse. But the second book is a devotional for the husband, the father, or even the spiritual leader, such as ladies who carry the torch, provide the light for the whole family in the house. If they are the ladies are the only ones who go to church, who live for God, and the man or the husband does not, and the children do not, then this book is for the ladies. I'm not going to be discriminatory against anybody who can benefit from what God had given me to write this book. So what you want to do is you can either go to Dog Ear Publishing, which is an online site, or you can go to Barnes & Noble website or Books A Million. They used to have them on there. I'm assuming they still do. I haven't looked for a while. But since bookstores are closed because it's not considered essential, you can still order online, and if they have them in the warehouses, then they will most likely send one to you. I encourage you to check it out. Just look for In a Father's Eye by Chris Lips. My first book actually was by a different publisher, and they went out of business. So I'm going to have to get it reprinted or something. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do. But this is me holding the book. I hope that you're blessed by it. I hope that you're inspired by it. But today's message comes from one of the chapters of this book. So anyway, let's get right into it. For those of you who are on the front lines, those of you who are like the healthcare workers or the people at the grocery store, someone that is considered essential through all this, and you're having to deal day in and day out with everything that goes on, putting your health at risk, putting the health of your family at risk. We applaud you. We thank you. And when you hear the rest of this message, you'll understand what I'm saying. So let's just go ahead and get right into it, shall we? If you want to turn in your Bible, just hit this on pause and wait till you get there, and you can follow along because I may have typed something wrong, but we'll get right into it. 1 Samuel 17 and 57 and it says, "And as David returned from the slaughter of the Philistine, Abner took him and brought him before Saul, with the head of the Philistine in his hand." Next chapter, verse 58. "And Saul said to him, Whose son art thou, thou young man? And David answered, I am the son of thy servant Jesse the Bethlehemite." Now we want to go to 1 Chronicles 11 and 16. Remember, if you need to flip through your Bible, just hit this on pause. If not, then you just continue the listening. "And David was then in the hold, and the Philistines' garrison was then at Bethlehem." Then the very next verse, "And David longed and said, "Oh, that one would give me drink of the water of the well of Bethlehem that is at the gate." So, with those scriptures in mind, and with everything that I said at the beginning about giving appreciation to those that are on the front line during this horrible time, this unprecedented time that we're having, I just want to share with you just for a little bit on where are the unknown soldiers. Now, this will make sense in just a moment, so please just kind of bear with me. But where are the unknown soldiers? When we look back at King David, and first we go back to King Saul, and I'm just going to kind of quickly recap what we should already know, but we have to set up the story. King Saul was anointed king. He was basically a king that Israel wanted. They didn't want necessarily what God wanted. They wanted someone that they could present to the other nations and say, "Look what a king we have." So God allowed them to have Saul. Saul was head and shoulders above the rest. He was a good-looking man. He was someone that was well liked, well admired among all of Israel. But Saul become kind of in his own self, to where he wanted to do things his own self. One time he was supposed to wait for Samuel to do a sacrifice, and King Saul waited and waited, and he did not want to wait any longer, and he decided to do the sacrifice himself. So when Samuel finally came and said, "What have you done, Saul?" And he's like, "Well, I didn't want to wait for you. I just went ahead and did it. I thought that's what God would want." And Samuel said, "No, this is not what God would have wanted. It is better to obey than to sacrifice." And that's when God said that he was going to find a king for Israel after his own heart. Not someone that the people wanted, but someone that God wanted. And that's where we set up kind of in this story. We find before he was king, before David was king, and when he got anointed, he was actually working for Saul in Saul's palace. And when David went against Goliath, which is the Philistine giant, the one that's being referred to here in 1 Samuel 17, it amazes me how David worked for Saul, and he played music to calm him down. He played music to kind of soothe his spirit. But yet, when David come after Goliath, and he was standing there in front of Saul with Goliath's head in his hand, Saul looks at him and says, "Well, whose son art thou?" And it amazes me. I would have been probably just someone that just stood up and said, "Well, King Saul, I've been in your palace playing music for you for so long. How could you not recognize me?" But David was humbled to be before the king. He was humbled to be standing there to give victory for the king, for his people. He had defeated someone that all of Israel was afraid to battle. They were intimidated by Goliath. Goliath called them dogs and talked bad against their God, and David wouldn't stand for it no more. So how could Saul not know who David was? David could have made himself known and said, "Well, God's already anointed me king, so you might as well move to the side." Or, "I'm the one that's been playing music for you. If you don't appreciate me, then I'm going to go elsewhere." No, David made himself unknown. He didn't say, "I'm David." He just said, "I am the son of thy I am the son of thy servant Jesse the Bethlehemite." He gave his dad credit, and he gave his people credit, but he did not give himself credit. David allowed himself to be unknown to King Saul, but he gave knowledge of his father and his people. That is the unknown soldier. That is the one who was willing to fight for God, but yet not take any glory, not take any recognition for what he had done. Just ignore my dogs. Now we go to 1 Chronicles 11 and 16. We find that David is fighting the Philistines again. Now this is after Goliath was dead, and Goliath had said, if you all defeat us, we will be your servants. But if we defeat you, then you'll be our servants. Well, Goliath was defeated, but yet the Philistines weren't going to be the servants of the Israelites, of the Hebrews. So we find that David is here and he's fighting with his men. Now, David, I love studying this, and this is actually in the chapter in the book that I was talking to you about, In a Father's Eye. David had 3 mighty men that he called the Three, and these men were like the creme de la creme of his soldiers. They were the best of the best. But he also had another group called the 30, and the 3 were part of the 30, but that doesn't mean that the 30 were part of the 3. I know that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but the 3 were like the elite group. And the 3 that we're talking about here, I don't have my notes with me, so I can't really, I think Eleazar or something, I can't remember their names, but the 3 were here with King David, here in this stronghold. And David's just kind of talking to his men, just kind of, you just kind of talk just out of your head. You're just talking to yourself, but other people can hear you. Said, oh, I wish I had some of that water from Bethlehem that was at the well by the gate. Oh, that would just be so wonderful. So his 3, the men that were with him, just was like, okay. But they didn't tell David. They did it secretly. They did it unknown. They snuck across the lines, risked their lives just to grant their king's request, just to grant what he wanted of having that wonderful water from the well of Bethlehem. That's what he wanted so much. And they snuck and they got it for him. But when King David got it and realized what they had did, he actually poured the water out as an offering to God, said, this water is just as precious as the blood of these men who snuck over there and got it. And he gave that offering to them. The 3 soldiers that went and got this water for King David thought they were only getting it for King David. But King David fixed it to where they were actually got it for the Lord. And it's just an amazing thing. They were willing to stay unknown. They were willing to do something so, not even reckless, but just so dangerous for their king. And then David ended up giving it to God. But they did it unknowingly to their king. They didn't want any recognition. How beautiful it is that all of you all are out there working for us. Here I am sitting out in a beautiful yard, with the dogs barking, the birds chirping, the wind blowing, neighbors just out talking, and you guys are out there working for us. And they're in the hospitals, and they're to grocery stores, exposing yourself day in and day out, could possibly get sick. You're putting yourself at risk. But no one knows what you're sacrificing. No one knows what you're doing. You are the unknown soldier. You are the one who is risking it all for us. Actually, it wasn't too long ago. It was 5 years ago. It was 5 years ago today, actually, that my son and I and my stepmother, which she's my mother, she raised me since I was 7, we stood in Washington, D.C. And we got to see some of the beautiful sights. I mean, we got to see, here is a faraway picture of the White House. This is Ford's Theater, where President Lincoln was shot. And when he was shot, he actually was taken across the street where he later died. Then this is the Capitol building when they was working on it. Need I remind you that this was 5 years ago. They were doing construction, so when you see pictures of it now, it doesn't look quite the same. But we also got to see, this is Union Station, where the Amtrak train and the subway, it's actually called the Metro there in Washington, D.C. And then also the buses you can take to tour the city. Here is the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial that we got to see in person. Here is the Washington Monument. Here is the Lincoln Memorial. It was just beautiful and wonderful to see. Here is the Theodore Roosevelt Memorial. Here is an outside picture of the Lincoln Memorial, just outside. And here is me and my son standing just outside the Lincoln Memorial. But the way you take the tour, you get to see all these sights. But then we also decided to get off at Arlington Cemetery, which is actually outside, just barely outside of Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia. It's in Arlington, Virginia, just across the, I think it's the Potomac River. I think that's what it's called. And inside the Arlington Cemetery, this is the eternal flame of our former president, John F. Kennedy. This is where him and his brother and even Jacqueline Onassis Kennedy was buried. But this is the eternal flame. This is inside Arlington Cemetery. The Arlington Cemetery was such a beautiful, beautiful place. Just amazing. Just all the honor and the glory and the representation of all the soldiers who died for our country. Not all of them. Obviously all of them can't be buried here, but many soldiers are buried here. And it's breathtaking, but it's also humbling to know that they all died for our freedoms. They all died for our way of life. But also, and this is the point that I'm getting to, there is a place, and I really strongly encourage you, if you go anywhere in Washington, D.C., the monuments are nice, the museums are nice, the Smithsonians are nice. If you go anywhere, go to Arlington National Cemetery and visit the tombs of the unknown soldiers. And as you can see, I don't know if you can really read the tomb, but I have it written down here, and let me get to it real quick. It says on the big white tomb, it says, here rests in honored glory an American soldier known but to God. So that is basically saying that this soldier died for our country, but yet we do not know who it was, but God knows who it was. This soldier that is placed here in the big white marble tomb, this is from World War I. And then there are there's actually three spots here. One of them is a soldier from World War II, and another one is from the Korean War. And the third one used to be a Vietnam soldier who was unknown. But since that time, they have recognized and figured out who this soldier was. So his remains were identified, therefore he was no longer unknown. And they gave him a proper resting place for his family. So the big white tomb is for World War One, and two of the three spots here in the front are World War II and the Korean War. There's a museum here behind it that you can go in and you can visit. Now, when I went and visited this with my son and my mother, I did not understand everything that was going on because of my limited eyesight. But you could tell there was a lot of respect and honor here for what was going on. But it really put something in me when I seen this place in person. So I had to do some studying when I got home, and then I ended up including a whole chapter about it in the second book, In a Father's Eye. And the things that I had found out through studying, through YouTube videos and through research articles, I'll never be the same. And I have never been a soldier because of my disability. I have never been a soldier. I have never been ROTC or anything like that. But to see this and to experience this really is just amazing, amazing. And what you will see is the honor guard. And when I seen him at first, I did not really understand exactly what was going on. I just thought maybe he was there just to kind of guard it. And he was there just to kind of keep the spectators away, because there was probably 50 to 75 people there, and they were coming and going, and everybody was being quiet, and everybody was being respectful, taking pictures, and they had like chains up to keep people away. But after I got home and I did the YouTube videos and I did the research, then I started understanding exactly what was going on. First thing that I found out was the march and stands of the honor guard. This honor guard, what they do is they start out saluting the tombs. So they're facing away, like where you see these people standing. They're facing away from us and they're saluting the tombs for 21 seconds. And then they turn towards the other end of the mat. There's like a dark colored mat there. And they walk from one end to the other. They salute for 21 seconds. And then they face the other side of the mat for 21 seconds. And then they do 21 paces to the other side of the mat. And then they do it all over again. So they do a series of 21s. 21 facing the other side, 21 steps, start it all over again. 21 is the number given for the highest honor for an American diplomat or foreign. 21 is the highest honor. The stands and the march was significant. Next thing, the weapon of the honor guard. This weapon here on his right shoulder is a M14 rifle with a chrome bayonet on the end. Now, this is not a prop. This is not just something for decoration. This is not something that people can purchase at the gift shop. This is the real deal. This thing is meant to be a weapon to protect. This weapon means everything to this honor guard. He places it carefully on his shoulder. Let me try to be careful how I say this. He never allows that rifle to face the tombs. When he turns and faces the other side of the mat, when he does his 21 seconds, before he's doing his count of 21, his rifle is always facing the crowd, facing potential enemies. It never goes close to the tombs. It never goes close to the unknown soldiers. When they do the changing of the guard, which we never actually got to witness in person because I didn't know this was a thing until after I did research. But during the spring and summer months, the changing of the guard happens every half hour. And they do this amazing hypnotic routine like they do in ROTC where they I can't even really explain exactly what they do. You just have to see it in person or pull it up on YouTube because it is a beautiful, just amazing, I don't even want to say ritual, but it is a tradition and honor to watch. But they change out every half hour during the spring and summer, but during the fall, autumn, winter months, they change out every hour. The guards are doing this every 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. There's always a guard there. Even during this time of unprecedented caution with no spectators, there's still need for the guard to give honor to these soldiers. So there is still a guards there doing this, to the best of my knowledge. I haven't heard otherwise. So I'm just going to assume that they are still doing this. Next thing is the the garment of the honor guard. Now I noticed things when I took this picture. I actually took this picture. But once I did the studying, I realized that their uniform, they spend hours before their half hour or hour duty of doing this. They spend hours polishing, making sure their uniform is exactly tailored the way that it should be. Their pants have to be a certain length to their shoes. Their shoes have to be polished. Their jacket, their white shirt, their tie, their gloves, their sunglasses, their hat, everything is exactly the way it should be. There is no halfway when it comes to their uniform. They will spend hours making sure everything is ready. And if something is off, they will fix it before they even go out there to the unknown soldiers, even if no spectators. That is how much importance and honor is given to the unknown soldiers, that they deserve that much respect. The honor guard commanding respect. Now, we actually never seen this ourselves, but on the YouTube video, while the honor guard is doing their 21s, their 21 salute towards the tombs, their 21 facing the other side of the mat, 21 steps, if a spectator or someone is being too loud, being too disrespectful, they will absolutely stop you. And if you don't stop, they will make you leave. They will use force if necessary. Absolutely, they will use force. This is not a game. This is not a show. This is about respect and honor, and they will absolutely stop you. They will make sure respect is given. And then they also reside over the wreath ceremonies. Just like in, let me see if I can pull it up. Right here. How there's a wreath there. You have probably seen it on the news. You have probably seen it in different various presidential and not spectator, but dignitaries. They will place, even schools will come and they will place wreaths on the tombs. This is a common practice. There's sometimes over 100 wreaths laid here, and the honor guard get to be a part of this. It's just a beautiful thing. There has been presidents, there has been just special people. There's been schools, there's been different like church groups. Just it's just a beautiful, wonderful thing. Uh, I didn't realize I had a picture there of it, but you would think that they would constantly have to recite 21 every time that they would face the tombs. They would actually have to count in themselves, and then they'd face the other side of the mat, and then they'd count to 21, and then do the 21 paces. They have done this so much that it's almost like an internal clock. They have wore spots in the mat to where they know exactly where to step. And there are men that do this, and there has actually been a woman that has done this, and it is an honor. Some of them sign up for more than one, watch, like within a 24-hour period. But they will practice hours in front of the mirror and practice for hours in front of one another to make sure every detail, everything that they do is exactly the way that it should be to show honor. So with all that being said, I need to say this. You're probably thinking that I'm referring to us being the honor guard protecting the unknowns. And what I mean by that is well, for instance, our weapons. Our weapons as a Christian, our weapons are the Bible. We should always have it handy. We should always have it ready. We should always be able to recite it whenever the enemy comes near. You're probably thinking that I'm calling us the soldiers because of the stance and the march, because everything has to be precise on the way we walk, the way we talk, the way we act out in public. You're probably thinking that I'm calling us soldiers because of our garment, our uniform. Because as Christians, we wear the whole armor of God. Just like the children's song goes, we have a breastplate of righteousness. We have gospel shoes. We have the sword of the Spirit. We have all the different aspects of what God wants us to wear with the whole armor of God. You probably think that I'm calling us all soldiers because we do need to do these things as Christians. If they're willing to practice for hours in front of the mirror, in front of one another, to make sure their uniform is perfect, to make sure that their weapon is perfect, to make sure that everything they do is perfect, hours upon hours, but yet we casually do things in our own spiritual life. You're probably thinking that. But God says that we are the unknown soldiers, and He is the honor guard. And the reason I say that is because God is always on call, 24/7, 365 days a year, whether it be rain. These soldiers stand out here in cold weather, hot weather, rain, snow, frostbite. They will wear the tread out on that mat in snow to where it will be pushed to the side, because where they march back and forth, back and forth. God does this no matter what the weather, no matter what the circumstance. God's weapon is perfect. God is wrapped in holiness and light. His uniform is perfect. His stance is perfect. His attitude and demeanor is perfect. And when we get out of line and we don't show enough respect, He will stop us. and He will get us to straighten up when we need to. God is the soldier over our life. And He says that we are the unknown soldiers. We are the ones that sacrifice without any kind of recognition, without any kind of glory, without any kind of personal gain. We can be the soldier for others, but yet we are also the unknown soldiers. We are the one being protected. So, as I draw this to a close, I know this probably wasn't exactly what you thought it would be, but if you ever go, you need to visit the tomb of the unknown soldier. This is a place that will change you, whether you are a military person or not. This is a place of reverence. This is a place of honor. This is a place where soldiers have given up their lives for us. And most soldiers get their names, the date they were born, the date they pass, maybe just a little bit of information about where they're from or what division they were in. But these soldiers, no one knows who they are. But yet they've died for us. And God is protecting them. God is protecting us. When we set aside ourselves and we live for God without any kind of recognition, without any kind of reward or spotlight, God protects us day and night. And God will always be there to protect us. But until we get into that position, we need to protect those who are unknown, those who are risking their lives for others. I hope this message, I hope this teaching blessed you. I hope that it really changed your opinion about some things. This is Apostolic Audio Ministries. Please hit the notifications. That way, hit subscribe. That way you can get the notifications. Please hit the bell so you can be aware of what new material is coming. Sometimes I get a hold of a CD and I put it on here. And sometimes we do things live just as right now. But we are here to help you. We are here to inspire you through this hard and difficult time. So I hope that you're safe. I hope that you're blessed. Please be careful out there, and let's hurry up and get through this so we can get back to our own lives. Check out the book if you can find it. I hope it's still online. If not, then just leave a comment in this video and let me know that you're still trying to look for it, and I will help you get a hold of a copy the best I can. But until then, my name is Chris Lips. This is Apostolic Audio Ministries. Hope you all have a good and pleasant day.